Welcome to Botcast, the show where we dive into the minds of industry leaders to explore the latest trends and innovations. I'm your host Mansa from SmartBots, and today we are privileged to have Suresh with us, a seasoned product manager and retail operation consultant. Suresh, welcome to Botcast.
Thanks, Manasa. It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on your show.
Suresh, before we dive into the specifics, could you provide our audience with a brief overview of your journey and your current role as retail ops consultant?
So, hi, folks. Myself, Suresh. I work with ThoughtWorks Technologies Chennai as a lead consultant for their retail service line. I've been in the industry for 15 plus years and worked on diverse set of roles and products projects across India, East Africa, and Europe and US. I carry with me expertise predominantly in retail domain, and being in the consulting field has kept me at the edge of my seat to know what's changing in the market, customer demand, market dynamics, changes in the technological landscape, so that combining all this, I would be able to work with my team to deliver optimal solutions at all the three horizons for the retailers and enterprises. That's strategic, initiative, and the delivery horizons. So, looking forward to an interactive session in the next 30 minutes. Thank you. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Suresh. Now, jumping right into our first question, which is revolving around generative AI and e commerce. In your perspective, what does Gen AI mean for e commerce?
Yeah. So with the advent of Gen AI, one of the major advantages e-commerce industry is going to get is empathy and emotional intelligence, wherein hyper personalization is going to be a more business as usual in the coming near future. We would be able to empathize with customers and respond in a more emotional and contextual manner rather than having a trained bot which just gives responses to customers' queries and questions. So that's what I see as a game changer. In short, we would be able to empathize and provide hyper personalization to customers at a large scale.
Fascinating, Suresh. Now, how does Gen AI act as a game changing enabler in e commerce, especially in high emotion customer interactions?
Yeah. So when we look at the service map, apply it over the customer journey. So we look at it from acquisition of a customer, wherein a customer goes online, tries to find your product or service, or looks for a specific need of theirs, and your product or service matches their need and it pops up. It could be a search engine, or it could be a social media platform, or it's just on the website that they have come and looking for your product. So, right from acquisition to enticing the customer to engage with your product, and when your customer engages with your product, providing them the right and articulate product information and checkout of the customer from your website, meaning they add the product to the cart and they do the checkout. And then the last mile communication, right, about the order, what they have placed. It has a long process of events. And when we capture these events that the customer does and the movements that we see, there are high emotional points when a customer lands on a website, and there is a messy middle wherein they try to completely be on their own, try to figure out things. And then there is again a high emotion when a customer checks out from the website or makes a checkout by making a payment and selecting or subscribing to your newsletter and then getting an information of their order confirmation and payment confirmation. So when we target these high emotional areas, we see that there is a lot of potential for application of generative AI, wherein we can provide emotional response to customers, which will be after understanding their situation and their questions in a more contextual manner. By that, what I mean is, let's take decide and buy, right? So decide and buy is the segment where a customer has added the product to the cart. And upon the addition of the product to the cart, they are now looking at the pricing information and various other details, shipment charges, all that. And then they have to now agree to make a payment, proceed to checkout. So when you look at a customer adding to a cart and checking out, in between that two activities, we see about a 70% dropout, right? And as we look into the applications of generative AI, we are looking at as I said, emotional intelligence, availability of 24 bar 7 assistant who can go to the customer preemptively, tell them what they are actually looking for based on what the movement of the customer on the website, and probably say a hi with addressing the customer and telling them like, may I help you, rather than waiting for the customer to click on the bot icon and then ask a question. And there are multiple other applications. As we go into the conversation, I would definitely be willing to deep dive into specific areas and look at specific set of applications as well.
It's a compelling perspective from the customer journey point of view. Now, could you elaborate on it? Can you share some examples of how Gen AI can address these customer dropouts, particularly in the decide and buy phase that you are, pointing out at? And also, how can Gen AI based virtual assistants be trained effectively on a company's products and services?
So today, when a bot interacts with us, we have an uncanny valley effect, right? Like we get our answers to certain extent, but we find we are in a state of uncomfort with that conversation. We are not like feeling comfortable. We don't find it human enough. And it is also a proven in case studies that people tend to even lie more when they are being questioned or interrogated for details when it is a bot on the other side versus a human. So, one, people are not comfortable, and people can definitely take the bot for a ride as well if that's possible. That's something that Gen AI can make a difference on, because as we see, there is an emotional quotient to the conversation of Gen AI. Gen AI can also adapt in real time to conversations based on the words or the pace of interaction of the customer, because we are not binding the LLM to a specific set of work that we have defined it to do. We have trained the model and we have let the model experiment when it converses in a more natural manner with the customer and their questions. So, if I look at a specific use case going back to that decide and buy state, let's say I'm a customer, I've added a product to the cart, and I see that there is a sudden pop up of 100 rupees which comes as a delivery charge. So if I'm buying a product that's worth thousands of rupees, I would not mind much paying 100 rupees as a delivery charge. But if I am on a website where I'm making a purchase of 900 or 1000 rupees, then I would definitely mind paying 10% of that as delivery charge. So, in such cases, usually retailers have a threshold when they make the order free for delivery. Meaning, you go to a website, you're able to make a purchase of 1500 rupees, then you get a delivery free of cost. If there is anything less than that threshold, then you would have to pay for it. So, today, if you look at ASIS and 2B with Gen AI, if a current model is trained, it would be taught that, okay, this is the business rule that we have, which is if the order value is less than 1500, you're going to tell the customer that, sir, ma'am, your order is less than 1500 rupees, so you're going to be charged a nominal fee of 100 rupees. You keep the sentence polite, but that's all that the bot can communicate. Whereas in case of a Gen AI, we can train the model and let the model take decisions stating that it would then go back, serve the customer profile. If it identifies that the customer is a high value customer, wherein it can do a RFM analysis in near real time, and from the recency, frequency, and the value of the customer, it can take a decision stating that though the customer is making a purchase only for 900 rupees this time, given the lifetime value of the customer and the recency or the freshness of the customer's interaction with the retailer, it can take a decision to waive off that 100 rupees, right? It immediately on the fly takes an action, improves the customer's brand perception by waiving off that 100 rupees, and it takes the right decision for the right customer. So, how wonderful it would be when you have something of that capability and you're able to do it 24 bar 7 whenever a customer comes to your website. So, that's the game changing formula that a Gen AI can bring in. But at the same time, this involves a lot of various integrations at the back end for such decisions to be made. So, retailers should be cautious that when they make such advanced interactive bots or virtual assistants, they should be cautious that the data privacy and transparency is again maintained in such kind of interactions, and the interactions are kept articulate and contextual to what the bot is interacting with the customer for. So there is a pro and a con to it, but definitely the pros outweigh the con, and I definitely feel this is the way forward.
Moving on to our next theme in retail, generative AI will favor early movers. What advantages do early movers have in implementing Gen AI experience? And what challenges might late adopters face in catching up?
So, application of generative AI as the last interaction topic that we discussed, there is a risk factor to it. We have seen in the past from large enterprises across the globe who have faced data leaks via integration with generative AI models, wherein hackers were able to successfully cause hallucination of the system and leak data that was supposedly not intended for public view. So when we look at application of Gen AI, couple of things that we should be cautious about is how we are, what is the scope, what is the objective of our AI model, why are we creating it in the first place, and what is the scope boundaries within which it has to operate in. And the second thing would be on how are you going to maintain the data privacy aspects and expose the right amount of information at the right time without overloading the customer at the same conversation levels, right? That's important when we apply generative AI solutions. The other thing, I think I lost your previous second question. If you may be able to repeat that for me.
So, what advantages do early movers have in implementing Gen AI experience, and what challenges might late adopters face in catching up?
Yeah. So when the overall thing that we saw now, like how we going to train it, how we are going to build a boundary scope, all of these comes with early stage challenges, right? Any technology that is newly introduced is going to bring in its own set of challenges. And early movers get the advantage to experiment it in the market with early adopters. So early movers are the ones from business who take the initiative. Early adopters are from the customers who are ready to use the latest technology. And usually early adopters are more merciful, meaning they are okay to excuse you when there is a mistake made because they know that they're using an early version of your product or service. Whereas when you look at the adoption curve, when the laggards or the late adopters come in to use your product, they look at a certain level of sophistication in your service and product. And that is kind of difficult to achieve when you're a late mover in the field as well. Because by the time you're getting into this field, which is specifically generative AI, which is extremely experimental and training driven, a early mover advantage is definitely going to help the business build a moat, which would make it difficult for competitors to come and take over the market position that the current player who has been an early mover has made for itself in the market. One real advantage that we see for early movers. And second thing is, given that these are models that are highly sophisticated, the advantage that early movers have is you can correct your issues, you can correct your problems that you foresee, and you can go back to train your models and make it more mature. That's one side of it. The other side of it is such new introduction of technologies has an element of surprise and excitement which fades away over a period of time. And if you're an early mover, then you can catch on this excitement curve. Just like we look in the retail industry, our industry is usually driven by the technology that is in the growth phase, like currently a generative AI technology. But over a period of time, it's going to grow, mature, and plateau, like any technology in the past. Similarly, early movers, when they introduce such things, they are usually introducing a surprise of element wherein I, as a customer, go into a website and see that surprisingly I have a bot at the checkout and it is going to tell me all the information that I need, and I'm going to have a seamless checkout experience, it's going to take some time for others to replicate it. And until then, I am the only service provider in the market who's offering that, and that's going to bring immense value when it comes to product experience for customers. So that's the long story, but yeah, there are different dynamics and working at the back end, which would enable these for the early movers. But yeah, that's definitely a competitive advantage that they're going to have.
Great insights, Suresh. Now let's talk about the practical applications. What are the other areas in retail where we apply generative AI? Could you briefly explain Gen AI for those less familiar with the term, and then discuss its potential applications in various retail areas as outlined by Bain and Company?
If we have to put Gen AI in a very simple term, we can look at it as training a kid in a specific art form. So let's say I'm training a kid to dance, a 5 or 6 year old kid who's gaining expertise in dance form. So far, the systems or the bots or the natural language processing models that we have has enabled the child to learn and apply the forms that it has learned in different permutation combinations, what which the master or the dance teacher would not have really thought about. But again, the child is going to play within the set of moves that it has been taught. But when it comes to generative AI, we are looking at the same kid being able to introduce a new form of dance. You're able to envision a new form of approach to address the same problem statement, which we would not have thought for. So that is what it means when you apply generative AI. You have control over the input, how you train it. You have control over the model itself by turning it on, turning it off, tweaking it. But you have little control over how it performs. The only way to control the outcome or the output is going all the way back to again the input level and training the model, right? So that's how I would put it across. So it's imagine a kid whom you're teaching a certain set of rules and forms, and that kid leverages that to come up with dynamic set of different set of forms and even a new art form from it, which again benefits back to the brings benefits to the business and to the community which the business caters to. I hope I was able to simplify it enough.
You did, and now focusing on applying generative AI, could you provide specific examples of how applying Gen AI in both internal processes and external customer interactions can create a balanced and impactful approach?
Yes. So we can pick up a thread of a particular horizontal. So in retail, we have verticals and horizontals across the value chain. So let's take an horizontal of product information management. So in short, for our viewers, product information management is all about authoring product data, conveying ability to convey that information across your different channels to your consumers in a consistent manner. It could be information about the product, the name of the product. You go to view the size of the product, the colors, variants, material, all that could be informative enough for the users to make a decision, right? The classification of the product. When you go to an e-commerce website, you see the different categories, subcategories, and all that. So all of that is controlled by a product information management system, which then caters its information to different platforms on the e-commerce, like content management systems and all that stuff. But eventually, the point is the end-to-end flow of data is from the product information management system all the way to the front end layer. And when you look at this thread, we can dissect this into internal and external facing. External facing are those touch points where customers interact with your products and services, which we call as the product experience layer. And internal facing are those applications which are like your product information management, your digital asset management, your master data management system, product lifecycle management system, all these that manages your entire life cycle of your product, right? So internal facing, external facing, that's how we can segregate it. And all of this lies on the same horizontal of product data management. Now, when you look at applications of generative AI, usually this whole stream of data flow is forward facing, meaning a content author or a steward would be able to add information about a product and it's cascaded downstream. And eventually it's fed to the product experience layer for customers' visibility. Now, with social media, we have different touch points being introduced, and there is a lot of community generated data. But the current challenge that we face in this space is it's very difficult to moderate the huge amount of community generated data, be it reviews, be it user feedback. So, when we apply generative AI, I can take this information that is generated by the community, condense it, moderate that data, and feed it back in a more articulate manner to my content authors. So let's say, for example, there are five people who have given a feedback about the product. And when you condense that information, basically all that five feedback points to one specific issue in the product or a misinformation in the product. Then the model will be able to consolidate this information and send that information across to product uh, content authors, stating that the product information is incorrect in this space. So they would be able to take immediate action rather than skimming through this whole data trying to figure out where the problem is. Now this whole lead time is cut down by a few fraction of what it would have actually taken, right? That's the internal application of this tool. There are multiple other things. We can also do sentiment analysis, wherein customers have different ways of looking for a specific product or service, and we call this as the keywords which we associate to each product. So these keywords are usually generated or added manually to a product. And even if it is system generated, it is with a very specific set of limitations that we generate those. Now, with advancements in Gen AI, we would be able to take all the search terms from the web and articulate those into very clean, clearly defined, short and crisp keywords and attach them to the product. Let's say, for example, in a society like India, the same product can be referred to by different names in different parts of the country. So now I can, from if I apply these models, I would be able to collect all this data related to which product that they are looking for and give an immediate swift feedback to our product information system. And I can even automate the process to add those keywords in near real time. That means the findability of the product is increasing in near real time. And the next time Google is going to build your URLs for findability of your product, it's going to be able to trace it much better. Your product is going to be able to sell itself in the market. That's the wonderful application of it. Going forward a step into the applications of it from a customer's perspective, right? We looked at how we can make a product more findable, make a product more user friendly for customer. When we look at the application of the same information to a customer, look at it from this perspective. I am parent, I want to buy a certain product for my child, and there is enough information that I have authored as a content author, and it is available on the product detail page for the customer's view. But there is something that is bothering the customer and they would like to have that question clarified, right? It could be just a matter of fact that, let's say, I'm a Indian by origin and I've moved to a new country. I have the same product with the same formula with an alternate brand, right? There's everything specified. It tells me all the ingredients, but the brand is different. Something is worrying me about it. What is the quality of the brand? I don't know about the brand. What's the brand awareness? I have no clue. So these are very specific to that customer. So now, if a bot has to respond, how wonderful it would be if it can skim through the CRM information to know that I am from Indian origin. And it could say that, hey, in India, you're getting this product. This is just an alternative of this. And this brand is well known and established in this market. And it is trustworthy among the mothers who have bought this in the past. And these are the reviews and feedback, right? Rather than customer shuttling between multiple touch points, doing analysis in the web to know all that, this whole system which is the LLM, is able to scan through the web, get the community data feedback about this product, understand the customer profile from the CRM system, get the product information from the product information management system, condense that data, and is able to interact with your customer, right? So, and the customer would definitely make a purchase because they have been clarified about the doubt that they have. So that's the external facing application. And this is just in one horizontal we are talking here, which is product information management. We can also apply such applications in contract negotiation, wherein procurement team is doing thousands of contracts, negotiating with thousands of vendors and manufacturers day in, day out. And these contracts and joint business plans are usually detailed in nature, and it takes a lot of days to move the files. So now I can apply Gen AI to condense information, comprehend it, and give me the clear details and risks associated to that particular contract in a form of legal implications and as well as compliance perspective, and also from a operational perspective. And then I can quickly take decisions as a procurement officer. So I guess, yeah, if we have an infinite time, there are infinite possibilities that we can discuss about. Very interesting area on applications of Gen AI, but definitely a space to be informed about.
That sounds like groundbreaking work, Suresh, but thank you for sharing your profound insights on transformative role of generative AI in retail. And it's been pleasure having you on podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Manasa. Happy to be here.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for more exciting conversation on the next episode of podcast. Until then, this is Mansa signing off.